Welcome to the Polished Podcast, where we embolden women to live out their faith in every aspect of their life, including the workplace. I'm your host, Jane Doerman, and I am thrilled to have you with us today. But before we dive in, I want you to hit that subscribe button to join our community of ambitious women who are committed to growing in their leadership and their faith. At Polished Network, we believe your work is more than just a job. It's a calling. We're here to provide the connections you crave, development you deserve, and the gospel that you need to thrive. Each episode features inspiring conversations with women who are leading with faith in the workplace. And our goal is to ignite your passion and equip you to lead with wisdom and courage. So let's go ahead and jump into today's conversation. As we round out this conversation on leading wisely, I'm excited to welcome Ginger Hill, a health and wellness expert who's deeply invested in how our physical health impacts our vocation. Now, Ginger helps individuals and organizations alike by coaching employees, leading wellness seminars, and crafting tailored wellness programs that align with company values. Her passion for helping employees thrive in both health and work, recognizing them as a company's greatest asset, shines through in everything that she does. Something she's experienced firsthand.
Number one, I see it myself personally, that I can get so invested in my work that I start to not take care of myself very well because I want to do such a good job, and I see the impact of that in myself. But I also see that impact in people that I work with. An example would be a client I work with. I'll call her Vicky. Okay, I'll call her Vicky.
Okay.
And she was an HR manager at a long-term care facility, like one of those retirement places where they do memory care, assisted living, the whole suite of services for elderly people. And she was awesome at her job. Her employees loved her, and she got really good results. Like in those industries where people are caring for the elderly, disabled, or children, turnover is super high. And in her organization, she had low turnover, which speaks really well to her effectiveness in HR. So she was doing great in her job.
Yes.
Personally, she was not doing well at all. She was in her 30s when I met her. She had just been diagnosed with high blood pressure by her physician. Her physician basically said, "This is not normal. And you're going to be on medication like you're in your 30s, right?" But she had other concerns about her two little girls and not seeing them and just the pressure that she was facing. And so, here was this vibrant young woman who was awesome at her job, doing what God had called her to do and doing a great job. And she honestly was ready to walk away from it because she could not figure out how to do a great job, but also do a great job in her own personal life and taking care of herself. And those are the kinds of things that will derail us from fulfilling God's calling in our life. And those are the things that really get under my skin. And I want to see that problem solved. So that's kind of what drives me, or what my passion is. I want people to excel at work, but also to excel personally so that they can do well at work and at home and be the person God wants them to be.
1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20 says this: "Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself, for God bought you with a high price, so you must honor God with your body." Do you ever wonder how caring for your physical body fits into the conversation of leading with wisdom? We often associate wisdom with head knowledge, right? Our lived experience, sure. And spiritual health, absolutely. But in discussions on leading wisely, it's easy to silo our lives, neglecting physical health and not realizing that leading as a whole person includes how we care for ourselves physically. It's all important.
When we come to work, we come as whole people, right?
Yes.
We do not compartmentalize ourselves. And what we do in our physical and the mental and emotional lives impacts our work. Example for me, I had an ice cream social at my house last night, okay?
Ooh, very nice.
And it was fun, but I'll be honest, I don't feel as good as I normally do this morning because I ate ice cream at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Not this morning,
Right.
So, it has an impact on how we feel and what we're able to do. Absolutely. The great thing about the Bible is that it contains principles that apply to every area of life. And
Amen.
that includes our health, right?
Right.
So one huge principle is the principle of stewardship, right? So we hear the word stewardship all the time and we think finances, we think time. Well, guess what? Your health is a stewardship issue, right? God has given us his body. He's given us whatever degree of health he has given us. And it's our responsibility to leverage that the best way we can for kingdom service, right? That
Right.
is a biblical principle. Another biblical principle I talk about a lot is, in the secular health world, when we talk about health, people want to set big goals. I want to lose 30 pounds. Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's an outcome goal, right? That's an outcome goal. Well, where in Scripture does God hold me accountable for outcomes? He doesn't. He doesn't. What he wants is my small steps of obedience, making the next best decision, right? So when you're working on your health, rather than focusing on outcomes, focus on what is the one behavior I need to do today, right? The one act of obedience. So that's just kind of a biblical principle that it applies to many areas of life, obviously, but the way we manage our health and go about achieving our health goals.
With over 15 years of experience in the health and wellness space, Ginger Hill has seen firsthand how essential it is to take care of our bodies, especially when it comes to leading wisely. Throughout her career, she has witnessed significant changes in how organizations prioritize and implement employee wellness programs, reflecting a growing understanding that physical health is a critical component of overall success and well-being.
Let's say maybe 20 years ago, when companies started talking about employee well-being and trying to support their employees, it was all focused on the employee. Okay, what can we do to get Jane getting more exercise? Like, Jane needs more exercise.
Okay.
Can we give her money to exercise? Can we, what can we do to make that happen?
Right.
And we've had a big shift now to go from focusing on the individual to focusing on the culture. How can we create a workplace culture where when Jane comes to work, it's easy for her to exercise. She feels permission that she can go out on her lunch hour and take a walk if she wants to, right? How can we begin to make some of those changes? And I think that's so important because we cannot expect people to change their behavior in an environment that goes directly against that behavior change, right? So it is important to focus on how can we create the culture that motivates people and helps them to do what they probably already want to do anyway.
At the heart of this conversation is the word stewardship, a shared responsibility between the employee and the organization. It challenges us to not only ask, how can I steward my physical health, but also to consider as leaders, how are we creating work cultures that empower our employees to steward their health well? Believe it or not, we're in this together.
I think one question that every leader needs to ask themselves is, how does my care for my employees reflect God's care for me? I mean, really, we really need to look at that. Are we being, representing Christ to our employees in the way that we care for them because he cares for us, right?
Before we take a quick break, stay tuned because our conversation with Ginger is just getting started. When we return, we're going to dive into essential topics like sustainability for long-term health success, overcoming common derailments, and exploring the 4 pillars of health. You won't want to miss a single minute of it. Are you ready to lead more boldly in your career? Join us on October 18th in Carrollton, Texas for the Boldly Conference, where faith meets professional excellence. This isn't just another women's conference. It's a transformative event for your professional and leadership development, designed to help you integrate your faith into every aspect of your work. At Boldly, we're gathering women who are ready to grow, lead, and make an impact. Through inspiring keynotes and practical workshops and deep connections, you're going to gain tools you need to lead with confidence and purpose. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder or seeking to lead with more intention, Boldly is your opportunity to bridge the gap between the sacred and the secular, letting your faith guide you in making a lasting difference. Go ahead and mark your calendar for October 18th at Bent Tree Bible in Carrollton, Texas. Tickets are on sale now. You can secure your spot today and take the next step in your leadership journey. Visit boldlyconference.com to learn more and purchase your tickets. Don't miss out on this chance to invest in your future professionally and spiritually. In the context of your work, what does it mean to lead wisely? And how do you help individuals and organizations align with this principle of leading wisely?
You know, when you look in scripture and you talk about wisdom, wise people don't just live in the moment, right? I mean,
right.
wise people look ahead, right? They have a mission, they have something that they want to do, and they align themselves to be able to do that, right? And most things that we accomplish in life are not going to be accomplished in a day, right? Most of our goals take weeks, months, years, perhaps decades, right, to accomplish, right? So you know, you mentioned before the word sustainability, right? Yeah. A wise person makes sure that what they are doing is sustainable so that they can reach their long-term goal, right? And so, I think when we think of sustainability, we often don't think of health, right? God works through this, sorry, but he does, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Amen.
Yeah, he does. And so, if I want to be successful and sustainable in my kingdom service and whatever God has assigned me to do, whether at work, home, or anywhere, right? I need to be taking care of this so that I can go the long haul to accomplish what I need to accomplish. To me, that's wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? That's wisdom. That's wisdom.
Ginger, I really love this idea of sustainability and just, how am I crafting the days of my work or just life in general to, I'm going to butcher, I'm going to look this up really quick. Are you familiar with Dallas Willard at all and the work that he does? Yes, I love Dallas Willard. And I read this quote this year and it really affected me. And I think this is good for all of us, especially in this conversation of sustainability. He says to arrange your days so that you experience total contentment, joy, and confidence in your everyday life with God. And I think this health piece is a part of that. What am I doing? What choices am I making to sustain the health that I need, to experience that joy, that confidence, in my days with God, because that's ultimately what he wants. We were created for this relationship, right? Right. And let's be honest too, like with being coached on these sustainable practices and habits for us, we can often get derailed. Like, I think that's just human nature. There's distractions out there. There's things that maybe take over our time that were unexpected, that we didn't plan for. How do you guide people in maintaining sustainability and avoiding these distractions and derailments, or maybe embracing the derailment and then like getting us back on track? Like how can we help us, Ginger, work with that?
Well, so when I work with clients, I kind of take them through a multi-step model. Okay. In other words, we don't just sit there and say, well, you need to lose weight. Here's what you need to do this, right? Right. We kind of go through a process of, talking about what does it mean to be a steward of your health? Like, how does that apply in your life? We go through a self-examination. What areas of your life in terms of your health habits are really helping you to do the work that God's called you to do? What areas are really holding you back? We also talk about creating a supportive environment and also supportive relationships. Because as I mentioned before, don't expect to be successful in making a change if you are in relationships and in an environment that is going exactly against what you're trying to do, right? So that's a really important foundational piece to get in place ahead of time before you start doing some big thing, right? And only after all that is done do we start talking about strategic action steps. And, what we know from the research is that as much as we love the stories of the big health overhaul, go big or go home.
Sure. Yes.
Right. Okay. That is not most people.
Right. Yes.
The research shows us that the people who are successful make small changes over a period of time. And it just becomes the success breeds success principle. I focus on one behavior. I experience success with that. Oh, now I am willing to try this next thing, right? That will help me improve in my health. So in terms of sustainability, making it realistic and making it small enough to be realistic. That's really important because that kind of goes against our American way of thinking. Yeah. And in terms of when we do get derailed, because it does happen, life happens, right?
Right.
I always work with my clients around maintaining momentum. So think about a train on a track. When it is dead stopped, how much energy does it take to get it going again, right? But if it's just slowed down, then it can get back up to speed. So when you're going through a period of time where life has happened to you, maybe just say, okay, what are 3 small self-care things that I will focus on even during this crazy time of my life? And that might be something like, I'm going to have a piece of fruit with lunch. I mean, how small is that? Right.
Yeah.
But if you can, even if it's super small, if you can maintain that momentum, even in difficult times, then once life gets back to normal, your train's still going,
Right. Yeah.
You're going to do great. So,
yeah. No, I love that momentum piece. And again, I don't know, this conversation, I knew it would speak life into me, and it really is, because I tend to be so hard on myself, like when I do get derailed, or because life does happen. Like it's not gonna. I have my workout routine set throughout the week. I have a training coach, that puts together. Yes, because I discovered very early on, it's not the working out that hinders me. It's figuring out what workouts to do that hinders me from consistency. Yeah. And Google has way too many options out there that I got overwhelmed by it. And so I literally, and this is what I told my coach in our first meeting together. I said, I just need you to tell me what to do, because I'll do it. I will do the plan. And I'm like 360 exercise streak or something like that, and she's like, awesome. You're right. She's like, you're really consistent, but I'm like, I need somebody to tell me. But then there are days where, like, I'm a mom of 3. So like you have your kids wake up sick, or they're up all night sick, and then you're just exhausted the next day. And you're like, I cannot physically do this today, or our schedules are crammed with life. Like summer is just such a hectic time. And I've noticed I've gotten derailed a couple, like from some of my workouts and stuff because of life. And I get frustrated, and maybe it's the perfectionist in me too that I'm recovering from. But it just, I like that visual of the train on the track, and getting that momentum going. And then, just because you missed a day, you're not totally derailed and nothing is ruined. Right. What's that next small step I can take to get that momentum going again? Right.
And so Jane, I have something that's going to change your life here. You ready?
Oh, Ginger. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a motto that I use with my clients. I don't have any tattoos, but if I had one, this might be it.
Okay. I love it.
Okay. And it sounds like this: do what you can until you can do what you want. Do what you can until you can do what you want. Because the biggest barrier to us moving forward is that all or nothing thinking. If I can't exercise 30 minutes, I'm not going to do anything at all. Right? Mm-hmm. Right. Well, what if we just said, I'm going to do what I can until I can do what I want? So I can't do 30 minutes, but I could take a 10-minute walk around the block. I'll do what I can. Yeah. So guess what? You've still burned calories. You've moved your bodies. And more importantly, you've reinforced to yourself that you're someone who values exercise, and that's a priority in your life, even when you have a tough day.
Whoa. My mind is blown. I'm like, do what I can till I can do what I want. Yes. Yes. Like, I don't know. Like, we just need to stop beating ourselves up over things like, that are out of our control sometimes. And I also feel like with what you just shared with us, that you're showing us that we do have some pieces that we can control, right? Like it's not utter chaos. It may feel like it, and I'm not, it may feel like it, but we still can make a choice within that moment, and it may not be perfect. Right.
Yes,
and I think that's so beautiful. And it's such a great reminder for all of us to be like, okay, like what is something I can do? What can I do? And, I don't know. Are there any other like areas of this health and well-being that we can control? Like, I don't know. And like, are there any other practices that you help people to kind of see and implement this into their health journeys? Yeah.
So, when I work with, organizations or individuals, I tend to focus like in 4 buckets.
Okay.
I kind of do eat, move, cope, and rest, right? Because I kind of feel like, those are the 4 pillars. Now, of course, our spiritual life is super important, but in my mind, those are integrated into all of that, right?
Yeah.
We can integrate prayer, biblical principles into all of those things. So I please don't think I'm trying to negate that, because I'm not. But like eating, not only what do I eat, but how do I eat? Do I pay attention to my body's hunger and fullness cues? Because God designed my body so that I can maintain a good weight. He's given me these cues. Do I just kind of blow past them?
Sure.
That's really important. Moving, God designed our body to move, right? If we don't move, muscles atrophy, right? So are we following God's design in that? Coping with stress, not so much what is this horrible event I'm going through, but what am I saying to myself about this horrible event I'm going through?
Yeah.
Right? So the whole thinking process. And then the rest one, which, transparently, I struggle with this one the most.
Sure.
My husband says I have a real problem with this. He has no problem with it. He's good for me in that way. He really is. But, just taking the time to recharge, to process, to reflect. Hey, you know what? Jesus did it, so we probably should too.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that. I love all that. And gosh, especially that piece, when we're stressed and what are you saying to yourself? Yeah. I think that is, that one convicted me, because I know I'm guilty of not being the nicest
me too.
To myself, especially in stressful, hard seasons of life. And, something that my counselor shared with me, or she keeps bringing it up, and I'm noticing, like, I feel like this is the thing she's trying to get me to get. Like, sometimes that inner voice is a younger version of yourself that's trying to protect you, from previous, and they may not be right or wrong, but that's why it's showing up. And how do we honor that inner voice by maybe a mindset shift of like, okay, obviously, I don't feel safe for some reason, and this is why I'm stressed out or why I'm anxious. And what am I trying to tell myself? And so trying to honor that inner voice and also discern with the Lord, like, okay, what is a next right move forward? She doesn't even like me to use the word right. What's the next move? I think that's like, and I think that could like relate to. What can relate to what we're talking about here, because I think we can get caught up on that word right. Like, what is the next right step? And I don't think it's a bad phrase. But I think I don't think I'm alone in this. I can, meditate mostly on like, I need to make the perfect next step. And maybe that's not what we need to get hung up on. And I see that in my health journey. I'm sure a lot of us see that as well.
Yeah.
So like, what can I do till I can do what I want? Right. Like you were sharing. So, gosh, that's so good. That's so good, Ginger. I love this. I love talking about this. And I know we've talked about, the biblical principles of this, and again, just really reminding ourselves that we are whole people, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. In your experience, how does leading wisely with faith as a foundation contribute to both personal and professional growth? And what impact have you seen in it on the organizations or individuals that you've worked with?
Well, I think when we lead wisely
Mm-hmm.
in the area of health, but really in any area, right? Wisdom covers many different things, right? We become much more effective, both in the short term and in the long term.
Okay.
The impact I see on organizations, though, this is super important. When leaders start getting behind this thing of employee well-being, when they start walking the walk themselves, when they start seeing some success, that can transform the culture of an organization because they get excited about their progress, right? They're feeling better. They're showing up at work. I'm like, wow, this is great. These things I've been doing, I feel so much better. And they want that then for the people that they lead. And so they become an example, but then they also start to make changes in the workplace, like we talked about, to make the workplace a little friendlier to the people under them being able to do the same. So, I think that's a really big impact on organizations. If the leaders can get behind it and start leading wisely, it's not just them it impacts, it is everybody down the road. And that is a really powerful thing when that happens.
I love that. Yeah, it trickles down from the top, right? You set the vision, and the vision helps us cultivate this culture within our teams, and ultimately, how are we stewarding our teams, and so that we can let them know they have freedom to move forward in healthy, sustainable ways. And then that's also a challenge to us as the employee, right? To be like, okay, so what do I need to be a better steward of, right? What is God calling me in my physical health? And I see it all connected, just like you shared. It's all connected, it's all integrated because we are whole human beings. Before we take our next break, I don't want you to miss a single minute, because you know what's on the horizon? Ask Me Anything! That's right. Stick around for intriguing questions from two question curators. They're two professionals deeply passionate about the next generation. If you've been following along with the show, you might have a good idea of who I'm talking about. But can you guess who they are? I'm still going to ask. So stay tuned to find out. Are you looking to grow as a leader while connecting with like-minded women in your area? It's time for you to discover the monthly Polished Chapter Gatherings. At Polished, we're on a mission to embolden women in their faith and work. Our gatherings are designed for women just like you, driven professionals who seek connection, development, and the truth of the gospel. Each meeting features inspiring guests, opportunities to share experiences, and meaningful connections with others who share your values. It's more than a gathering. It's a community of support and growth. Whether you're looking to enhance your professional skills, deepen your faith, or simply connect with others on a similar journey, Polished Chapter Gatherings offer the connection you crave, the development you deserve, and the gospel-centered encouragement you need. Visit polishednetwork.org/chapters to find a chapter near you and join us for the next gathering. Together, let's grow, inspire, and lead with purpose. Well, welcome back, friends, to the Polished Podcast. We hope you're enjoying this insightful discussion with today's guest, Ginger Hill. But now, let's add a splash of spontaneity and a sprinkle of fun to the show. It's time for Ask Me Anything! So, Ginger, here is how Ask Me Anything works. We're about to uncover the woman behind the profession, the quirks behind your expertise. I've received 3 questions from one of our podcast guests. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to answer these questions to give us a deeper insight into who Ginger is. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. You're going to do great. You're going to do great, Ginger. You can totally handle this. I have full confidence in you. So today's questions were curated by Grant and Cheyenne Skeldon. They are actually going to be on the show, I think a couple episodes from now. They're like on the Lead Wisely track, same as you. Okay. But Grant works for Think as the Next Gen Director, and Cheyenne is his wife. She is the life plan guide for the Patterson Center. They were a really fun conversation, and I think you're really going to enjoy the questions that they had for you. So,
Question 1. What is your biggest personal pet peeve? And what is your biggest leadership pet peeve?
My biggest personal pet peeve. I think my personal pet peeve is disrespect.
Ooh.
There's so much of that going on right now. Maybe I've spent too much time on social media. Maybe that is my problem. The level at which people are talking with one another, that they would never speak that way if they were talking to their neighbor across the fence, is just astounding to me. It's just astounding to me. That's a pet peeve of mine. I have a big leadership pet peeve. Okay.
Ooh, lay it on us.
Okay, I have noticed, because I do a lot of work in working with employees around mental and emotional workplace coaching, that kind of thing. A lot of times I will have managers come to me and ask me to do a training because they're trying to educate themselves out of a management issue. In other words, they're having problem with maybe one or two employees, and they don't want to directly deal with that. So they say, hey, you know what? Let's just train the whole team. And so they never get at the root of the problem. That really drives me crazy. That's my pet peeve.
Oh my goodness. That's so good. Like I never even thought about that, but yeah, that would drive me nuts too, for sure. All right, Ginger, question 2.
What is a current favorite hobby? What are you loving to do lately? Like, what is bringing you life?
Oh boy, my current favorite hobby. Well, okay, I live in the Chicago area and it's summertime. So,
yes.
So I'm going to say my current favorite hobby is just going out on a bike trail and taking a bike ride, just because I love that. And we're so limited as to when we can do that. My favorite wintertime one is I love doing mosaics. I found this art class, and it's great because you break stuff. You know, like you have to break the stuff and then you put it together and you grout it and it turns out to be something beautiful. It's kind of like I am in my zone when I'm doing it. I'm in my zone.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that you have, so I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, but I'm a transplant from Detroit, Michigan. So I feel you on the winter time. We jokingly say Michigan has 2 seasons, winter and construction. So
right?
so I really appreciate you sharing those two, because when it's summertime, you got to embrace, the warmer weather, because winter hangs on a little longer than we need it to. So, and I love the mosaic idea. I've seen other people get into that. And it just looks like a lot of fun, especially the breaking part. So
the breaking part, very therapeutic.
That's awesome. Well, the final question that they have for you, question 3.
What fictional character in a movie, story, comic, wherever, just basically simple as, what fictional character do you relate to most and why? So
what I love is when my husband is really into these like Marvel movies, like these big superheroes. I love a good female superhero.
Amen.
And that is who I strive to be. I am not there. I'm just going to tell you. But that, that bravery and confidence, that would be who I wish I could say that is, but I'm working towards it.
So are you saying like Captain Marvel? Because I think she's amazing. The female, like... Marvel
Wonder
character.
Woman. There's a bunch of them out there, right?
Yes. Yeah. So no, that's fantastic. I watch those, and especially the female leads on those. I'm very inspired by, and I have a daughter, so I'm like, do you want to be Wonder Woman? Do you want to be Captain Marvel? And she's like, no, I want to be a ballerina. And it's like, all right, that's fine. That's cool.
Right.
I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Oh, well, Ginger, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Sure.
And here's the thing, friends, we want you to join the conversation too. Do you have a burning question? Do you have a curious musing or a wild wondering about our guests or leadership? Now's your chance to be a part of the action. Visit our website at polishednetwork.org to submit your questions today, become a Polish Podcast MVP, and get a mention plus more insight into your favorite guests. Send in those questions today. Are you a working woman looking to elevate your leadership this year? Polished Collaboratories could be your next right step in moving forward in your leadership development. Polished Collaboratories are small groups modeled after executive peer groups, yet available to working women at all levels of leadership. Collaboratory members dive into leadership training with a faith-forward perspective for 12 months. This is your opportunity to tap into diverse perspectives, conquer challenges, and achieve your goals in a united sisterhood. New groups are launching in 2024. We want you to be a part of it. So go to polishednetwork.org/collaboratories to learn more. What's a practical first step our audience can take today to start integrating healthier practices into our routines guided by our faith?
Well, as I mentioned before, a lot of what drives my work is helping people look at what am I doing in my life with my health, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, that is helping me to do what God has called me to do, and what is hindering me. So I would say the first place is prayer. God, you've given me this assignment. You've given me this resource right here, among many others. What am I doing that's good? What am I doing that's really helping me partner with you in kingdom work and really be a full participant in what you've called me to do? And where are some areas where I'm not doing so good? For some people, it might be not getting enough sleep, something as simple as that. I think that is a really great place to start. And then, once you've prayed and maybe, God has spoken to you about something, an area of your life, to start as small as you possibly can, like for example, if it's sleep, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep a night. Oh, that's an outcome goal. Instead, I'll say, you know what? I'm going to be in the bedroom at 10 o'clock every night, getting ready for bed, not doing anything, right? That's a small thing that will lead me towards where I want to be, getting 8 hours of sleep a night. So making it as small as possible as a starting place.
That's so good, Ginger. And I agree. I want to remind our listeners that, especially as you shared earlier, like, let's stop making goals that are focused on the outcome. Let's focus on the stewardship of how am I getting to where I want to go and what's like a good next step? Because I just feel like this weight lifted off of me. When you say that, this has been such a healing conversation, Ginger. You have no idea. This is incredible. This is incredible. When it comes to these small actions, though, I feel like accountability can be integrated into the sustainability piece, but accountability can also be like, I don't know, there can be some friction there. I think tension there, like, oh, I don't want, how could we, as we think about these goals that we're setting, these, small goals that we're trying to work towards or integrate into our routines and practices, is there a way, even like a small way, to get accountability into that piece too? Like how can we make accountability approachable, I think is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, a lot of times when we think about accountability, we think about, okay, somebody else is going to call me and say, Ginger, did you exercise today? Right. Or whatever it is. Right. But I think accountability has to start with us educating ourselves about our own habits. Right? Because so much of our health habits we do on autopilot, right? So there are so many great apps out there where you can, like, let's say a food diary app. If you do a food diary for a week, you are going to educate yourself very quickly on what your eating habits are. And that will inform you then so that you can set appropriate goals for yourself. So I think the first step of accountability is somehow setting up a tracking system, whether on, pencil and paper or on your phone, on an app or something like that, where you're tracking whatever behavior you're concerned about so that you start to see the patterns in your own life. Only then can you set appropriate goals. And then maybe you can bring somebody else in and say, I've done my homework. This is what I want to do and why. And then maybe they can help you with that.
I love that. I do agree with you. I think that, self-education goes a long way, especially it's like that first step into self-awareness of just being like, oh, like maybe that extra, scoop of ice cream right before bed isn't the healthiest choice, to make, or like I didn't realize I did it as often. I think that's something again that I when I started doing very loosely a food diary just to just notice my habits and being like, oh, I did this like 4 times this week. I don't need to be doing that, and then without writing it down, I was thinking, oh, I only do it like once or twice. No, it was a lot more than that, Jane, and there's grace there. There's grace there, but it was that piece that made something click for me to be like, oh, I need to be a little more mindful of what it is I'm doing.
Because you're learning about yourself, right? It's not about self-criticism. It's about, when I did something similar to that recently. And one thing I learned about myself is that when I go and visit my mom in assisted living, all the residents outside their doors have little candy dishes. And I would just like, oh, let's get a little Reese's cup. Let's get a little Hershey. I'm like, oh my goodness. That just kind of went over my head. But I'm like, wow, do that a couple of weeks. That makes a difference.
Yeah. No, it's, I like that. There's the self-learning. Let's, not be, critical of the choices that we make, but it's good. It's good to be aware. It is good to be aware. Right. And Ginger, I'm just thinking of the person who may be listening right now, and I'm hoping they've been encouraged by this conversation and the vulnerability that's been shared. But sometimes taking that first step can be overwhelming, right? It can be just overwhelming, no matter, whether it's from my personal experience, it was just like all the choices of exercises that were out there, and I didn't know which ones to do or what was the right course to take. So like for those who might be feeling overwhelmed or just unsure where to start, what encouragement do you have to help us overcome these obstacles in our mind, or maybe they're physical obstacles, and how can we stay committed to our journey of leading wisely with our health?
Yeah, the one thing we've talked about before, which I think is really important, is starting small.
Yes.
The other thing I would say is I always, when I work with clients who are kind of in a place where, I'm just in a really bad place, where do I start? A lot of times I will say, you know what, let's start by moving your body more. And for 2 reasons. Number one, it is easier to add a habit than to subtract one. Right.
Okay.
So if you're starting out, it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to add this rather than I'm not going to have that little Reese's cup that I have, that I was talking about.
Yep.
Right. So that is a lot easier. Plus, exercise has such a big impact, right? It impacts physical health, mental, emotional health. So it's a small behavior that can have big results, right? Because it impacts so many aspects of our life. So I would say that, try to find a small behavior with big impact. Make sure that it's really small, though. Important to start.
Okay.
Small.
Start small. I love it. Well, Ginger, Ginger, I just really appreciate you coming on here and, informing us, sharing with us. It's been such a great conversation. For those who want to connect with you or follow your work, how can we do that?
So I have a website, and it's called goodhealthforgoodworks.org. It's all spelled out in letters, no numerics.
Okay,
goodhealthforgoodworks.org. And if you go there, you can learn about me, you can contact me, and you can also sign up for my newsletter. So that's a great place to start.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show today, Ginger. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and learning from you.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Jane.
Reflecting on my conversation with Ginger, it's clear that leading wisely extends beyond traditional boundaries to include our physical well-being. Ginger's insights remind us that stewardship of our health, it's not just a personal responsibility, but it's a crucial element of effective leadership. By integrating self-care into our daily routines, we enhance our ability to lead with wisdom and purpose. Remember, true leadership encompasses the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. Do you have a takeaway or a question from today's conversation? If so, let us know. Share your thoughts for this episode on our Instagram post, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can go right ahead in the comments below and ask away. Let's continue this dialogue on leading wisely. As we wrap up this episode, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who plays a role in making the Polish Podcast a reality. The Polish Podcast is made possible in part by the generous support of Coca-Cola Consolidated. Thanks again to Ginger Hill for encouraging us to reflect on how stewarding our health is an integral part of our journey toward deeper wisdom. To our loyal listeners, your unwavering support and engagement drive us to deliver content that resonates and emboldens. Thank you, Polish Network, for creating a nurturing community where women in the workplace can thrive and connect. A big thank you to White Oak Christian Church for their partnership and contributions to the production of these episodes. And so, as we wrap up today's discussion and this whole discussion on leading wisely, remember this. Instead of getting bogged down by the big picture, sometimes it's the small daily actions that make all the difference. As one wise soul once put it.
Rather than focusing on outcomes, focus on what is the one behavior I need to do today, right? The one act of obedience.
If you're seeking a supportive community for your faith and work journey, I'd love to encourage you to join us on social media and our YouTube channel. Stay updated with our latest content by liking, subscribing, and taking a moment to rate and review the Polish Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your engagement means a lot, and it helps us create content that's meaningful for you. Until next time, this is Jane Doerman signing off. Keep moving forward and stay emboldened.